There's a battle raging in Bitcoin right now. And if you're listening to this, you may be caught in the middle of it and not even know it.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on core versus knots.
Ordinarily, I would agree that you can't really spam Bitcoin. If as long as you're paying a fee, then it's a transaction. But it gets more complicated because Bitcoin Core has seemingly started removing roadblocks to spam.
You may have heard about Bitcoin Core versus knots, a debate that's been gaining traction in the last few months. And this battle has many Bitcoin holders worried about the future of what Bitcoin may be. Today, I want to break down what that debate is from a completely non-technical standpoint. I'm not very good at technical stuff. And I also want to share some information with you that was just revealed that may change the way people use Bitcoin forever. I'm Oshins. This is Beyond Bitcoin. You're not going to want to miss this one.
I don't think people appreciate how much they've harmed their own cause on the core side by talking to everybody else, by talking down to everybody else, and I'm not going to use the language that's used on those spaces and in those discussions, but it doesn't, it isn't advancing the cause of creating consensus or winning over supporters.
First off, for those of you who are not familiar, what the heck is the knots versus Bitcoin Core debate? Currently, there are two schools of thought when it comes to Bitcoin. The first being Bitcoin as an uncensorable medium of information exchange, and the second, Bitcoin as money, period. Now, I'm sure while we all agree that Bitcoin should probably be both of these things, this category, the uncensorable medium of information exchange, comes with a big monkey on its back. You see the monkey on the back? I should put a little JPEG there, to illustrate the point. Think about it. Since SegWit and Taproot updates to Bitcoin, other subjects that go way above my head, users have been able to tie additional data to transactions. This means that users suddenly had the ability to attach a JPEG or a note or a GIF. Anyway, you can attach a number of different types of data to the blockchain. Isn't that like an ordinal or something? Yes, it is. An ordinary ordinal. So this sparked an entire community that was able to create NFTs that were tied to a single sat on the blockchain.
Each ordinal is inscribed into a single Satoshi on the Bitcoin network. That's actually a bit of a misnomer because each Satoshi already has an ordinal that describes its place in the blockchain. This means that each ordinal has a date and a unique identifier. And the data, whether it be an image, a message, or just gibberish, can be inscribed into the data area of the Satoshi.
Now let me clarify that these GIFs, JPEGs, or notes don't exist on the blockchain. It's not like miners are stuffing memes into their transactions and broadcasting them. Rather, it allows an opportunity for a user to attach additional data to the blockchain, and that additional data is then tied to one of these NFTs or JPEGs, inscriptions on some kind of ordinal explorer. So you'd have to go to an additional website or a third-party app to be able to actually see what is inscribed on these sats. It's like putting a little tag on a sat. So why am I explaining all this? Well, this is what sums up the current state of Bitcoin Core. Whether you like it or not, the sats you save on a daily basis could have graffiti attached to them on some kind of third-party app. As you can imagine, this sat scratch doesn't sit well with everyone. In fact, there's an entire community that wishes to prune their nodes, which is to only allow financial transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. And this is what's referred to as the Knots Camp. A valid effort, terrible logo. But this Knots Camp is not going to recognize your dirty NFTs.
Spam is something you don't want, right? Like if you make a comparison to email, what is spam email? It's like unsolicited email that just comes to you that you probably don't want, right? And I don't think there's a direct one-to-one comparison for Bitcoin spam to anything else in the world because there's really nothing else like Bitcoin. So you can't really directly compare it to email spam. Mail spam, physical mail spam, maybe, but it's still like not perfectly a one-to-one example. But I would say, yes, there is spam. And this is a whole other dimension to the whole debate, which is some core supporters are saying there's no such thing as spam because the spammers paid a fee. But going back to the imperfect example, the guy that's spamming your email also paid for his internet connection. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want to get that, right?
Their school of thought is let's keep the network clean and free of any trashy data. And I do mean trashy. So what's the deal? Why not just run a version of Bitcoin on your own personal node and let bygones be bygones? And this is where another fracture exists. Because Coming in as early as this October, there will be a new Bitcoin Core version release, version 30.
It's coming for you this October. Bitcoin version 30.
Very scary. This apparently is a major upgrade to the network, where the most significant change is the removal of the 80-byte limit on op return transactions, which embed data on the blockchain. Okay, so you're removing the 80-byte limit. Again, what's the big deal? What the heck does that mean?
Bitcoin Core version 30 is being released in about a month. And in this video, I'm going to explain why I'm not upgrading. The first reason is the deprecation of the data carrier size option. The argument for deprecation is premised on the idea that this particular filter has no effect. Though couched in technical terms, the argument is ultimately an economic claim that unseen effects do not exist. The second reason is that data carrier size option now defaults to 100,000 bytes. The argument for this is based on the idea that bumping it to 160 bytes would necessitate another pull request, and if bumped to a number lower than 100,000, yet another pull request. In other words, the decision is based on administrative or political reasons and not technical reasons. I believe this opens the floodgates way too soon and is again premised on an unfounded economic claim. The third reason is that the minimum transaction fee has been changed from 0.1 sats per vbyte down from 1 sat per vbyte. This is a transaction filter that demonstrably prevented Marapool, among others, from adding more spam to the blockchain due to orphan risk. I believe this to be a completely unnecessary thing for both the miner and user.
The decision to remove the op return size limit has drawn criticism from purists who worry that it may encourage non-financial data or spam to be stored on the blockchain, potentially compromising Bitcoin's identity as a system of peer-to-peer electronic cash. Now, this movement is being steered by Ocean Miner CTO Luke Dasher, and he's been adamant about rejecting the new core update and having users switch to knots. So if you're not on X, this is the real upset right now. Do we want Bitcoin to be an uncensorable medium of information exchange, or do we want to limit the network to financial transactions only? I am interested in this. I actually would like to know what you think in the comments below, even though most of you are not spammers, aren't you? Spamming my comments with your Nazi stuff. This has caused somewhat of a bifurcation in the community, where accounts are slinging memes and slangs at each other, all of which are offering up their 2 sats and reasons why to stick to core or ditch it for knots. Don't you just love when someone who's completely unqualified to talk about a subject makes a video about it on YouTube? By the way, knots and core aside, are you prepared for a major event or crisis that can affect more than just your bank account? Sat123.com has a lineup of tools, satellite phones, portable hotspots, power kits, and Faraday bags that keep you online and communicating when everything else goes dark. And if you go to sat123.com right now and you put the promo code SIMPLY, you get 15% off your purchase. Keep your sovereignty and your signal in a time of crisis. That's sat123.com. Now, there's another account that you may not have heard of that is milking this debate for some great comedy, and that's the Bitcoin Bugle. The one piece of advice that I do have in this episode, you got to follow these guys. You got to follow the Bugle. Richard Greaser and Rod Palmer have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the Bitcoin community. And at the same time, they manage to troll it like nobody else can do. The Bugle offers insights and actually great technical perspectives on this whole debate. And they do it with satire.
See if I can handle this.
Guys, if you see this, I love what you're doing. Continue. Thank you very much. On a recent recording of the Bitcoin Bugle podcast, Rod Palmer walked a very thin line between trolling and truth, and he called out the entire situation. Listen here.
Let's be clear. Can we be adults? Can we cut the LARP, okay? Many influencers are bad actors. Not all of them, but many. There are countless plebs and everyday Bitcoiners who are caught up in this because they're worried, and some are genuinely scared. They are scared for Bitcoin. They are scared for the security of their savings. They're scared of how the government, the state might react to policies pushed by core developers, and they are some of them. And they don't listen to Bitcoin podcasts, clearly. But that fear, because the trust has been shredded across society. People don't trust neighbors. coworkers, or even their own family members. Republicans don't even trust anymore. Think about that for a second. Republicans, they don't even trust anymore. Don't take that for granted. It's not just a joke. This has serious ramifications. They don't trust the institutions that used to be the scaffolding of civil life. Credentials are the glue. Because we live in a low-trust society, and there's no going back. Shout out to Satoshi. Great foresight, by the way. Don't trust, verify. Used to be a meme on Twitter and a catchphrase on podcasts. Still is. For a lot of people, it was rhetorical candy. Cute. Performative. Harmless. Well, it's not optional anymore. We cannot blindly trust anyone, not even Cordettes.
Now, I encourage you to check out the entire clip linked in the description below. Very thoughtful words from an otherwise satirist account. But I can't sign off yet without covering a bit of new information that was released by Luke Dasher back in September 25th. Remember, he's the CTO of Ocean Mining, and he's pushing people towards knots. Apparently, he had an exchange with a journalist who goes by the pseudonym Lola Leitz, where he explicitly says in that text thread that he intends to fork Bitcoin. What do you mean fork Bitcoin? What the fork does that mean? Now, this leak has been met with some backlash in defense of Luke. Now, let me reiterate, knots is about Bitcoin as money, period. The key aspect of the knots movement centers around filters. Knots nodes have a special configuration to filter transactions. And again, knots nodes do not relay transactions with inscriptions or spam. But once they are mined and confirmed, knots nodes still validate and confirm blocks. This is a policy change as opposed to a consensus change. If the consensus was changed by knots, the blocks with spam would be considered invalid, and ultimately there would be a chain split hard fork. And this is what Luke is referring to in his text thread. To add to that, the core version 30 controversy is about op return. But the reason this is so controversial is because any spam or graffiti in the op return cannot be pruned by nodes like ordinals inscriptions can. Ordinals are stored in the witness data part of a block, which is segregated from the actual transaction data. Segregated witness. Oh yeah, SegWit. Yeah. A prune node is one that only stores the transaction data, not the witness data, since the witness data is not required to validate transactions back to the Genesis block. So here's the real question. How does this all affect you? Well, I'm not here to advise on the what you should do. At the end of the day, this is simply Bitcoin, and that would be simply irresponsible. But I will leave you with this. Here's another audio clip from Rod Palmer in that address that he makes to his audience that really hits home.
Bitcoin Core is not an exclusive cabal of C++ coders. Bitcoin Core is not Shinobi, it's not Gloria, it's not Greg Maxwell, it's not Peter Wheel, it's not Adam Back or Luke Jr. standing alone at that altar. Bitcoin Core is an institution, like the education system, like the healthcare system, like the criminal justice system. It is a story, a mental model people use to reach consensus. It's a process for resolving autistic, pedantic, technical conflicts. And like many institutions, an institution's in terminal decline, Bitcoin Core is taking a legitimacy hit as the bigger quote-unquote vibe shift plays out. You know it, we're in the, fourth turning, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, the end of the story has not been written. It is uncertain, and uncertainty makes people fearful, and fear is a fertile ground. And the bad actors, mostly on the not side, are harvesting that fear like it's crop season. And listen, those who have built their reputations inside Bitcoin Core's institutional framework will fight tooth and nail to defend it. That is predictable, I get it. But the hallmark of a frightened pleb is this: fear of the state. They believe Bitcoin Core can no longer shield them, can no longer be trusted to shepherd this project for them. So they are in search of a new priesthood to protect them. Here's the rub. Many influencers would rather pick fights with Bitcoiners than with the state because it's a hell of a lot easier. They'd rather cash in on your fear than confront the real threat. They want you scared because they're selling solutions. They're selling node hardware, mining software, premium newsletters, all kinds of content. And if they're not taking your money directly, they're still selling your attention. Attention is a currency. It costs your time, your sats, and your anxiety.
Now, if you want to support Bitcoin's resilience and earn sats along the way, check out sasmining.com. Sasmining.com offers Bitcoin mining as a service. You own the rigs, and they host and manage in renewable power sites. And your mined Bitcoin goes straight to your wallet. It's non-custodial. It's the clean way for creators and small businesses to plug into the network. If you go to sasmining.com right now and you put the promo code in Simply Bitcoin, you'll get $100 off your first rig. Book a call with one of their expert team members and start mining today at sasmining.com. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope I was able to convey some sort of information to you. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you hit that like button below, or you can subscribe to the Simply Bitcoin channel for more content like this. We're coming out with it every single day. Also, do not forget to hit that notification bell. I'm Oshins. This is Beyond Bitcoin. Until next time.